Yeah, I'm just going to talk to you about what we do at the RNCM specifically with the saxophones for a little bit, and then just open it up to questions, because I very much want this to be your chance to get your answers specifically to what you want to know about RNCM as a saxophone student. So I'll try and not sound too boring. Here we go. So saxophones at the RNCM. You may have figured some of this out already, but you've had a lot of people talking at you today, so let me just continue and do all that again. Starting with the very basics, everybody receives a one-to-one lesson every week for 27 weeks of the academic year. Those lessons are shared between the team of saxophone teachers that we have at the RNCM, between myself as senior tutor, Carl Raven, who's one of my Apollo colleagues, and Andy Scott, also from the Apollo, who comes in infrequently. I'll explain that in a minute. And then in second study with jazz saxophone tuition being taken by Mike Hall, and latterly a little bit with Ian Dixon. So yes, you get an hour a week principal study lesson looking at your technical saxophone work. Now I know there's lots of talk about classical saxophone courses and jazz saxophone courses and all that other nonsense. I'm very much of the opinion that we run a saxophone program. And that it doesn't force you at 17, 18 years of age to define yourself by those two very limited genres of classical and jazz, neither of which are exclusively of interest to the saxophone. My job, our team job at the RNCM, I think, is to prepare you for a profession as a saxophone player, which is going to be a portfolio-based career. We can't get a job in an orchestra or a band or anything like that. We're going to be dropping in and out of a variety of musical settings, and we need to be as adaptable and flexible as possible. So in order to get you out the other end and for you to be able to eat, we try and get you ready for to be able to play in a classical style, in a jazz style, and all points in between. The opportunities you'll get at the college reflect that, as I'm sure you've been hearing already in the school meetings. There's people knocking at the door. How do I let them in? There we are. There's too much to do. I need an assistant. Just let them come in. Hello, new people. I need to make sure I can see that bit where you're all waiting to come in. Sorry, faffing. Let's put that there. Yes, so where was I? So yeah, one-to-one lessons in a whole variety of things. In addition to that, every week we have a saxophone class where the whole saxophone studio gets together. Currently there are 18 of us, I think. It's a good-sized department, but not too big. I think it's Tuesday nights. We get together for 2 hours. It's really lovely to bring the whole class together. There's very much a family atmosphere amongst the saxophones. It's something I'm very keen to promote, that we all become friends and look after each other and support each other in our, not just in our learning, but in our growing as people and being away from home and all of that stuff. And you're all very much going to be part of that community as and when you leave the college and go into the profession. Those are the people that are going to keep you employed and be part of the people that you're working with. So it's very important that we develop those long-standing relationships. So the classes cover a wide variety of subjects. We have solo classes. We have a regular class pianist who plays with us and knows pretty much the entire saxophone repertoire backwards. So you can get up and play anything you're working on through in front of the class and get some feedback from the class and from the tutors in rotation. Hugely useful as a big part of your final graduation process. You know, your 50% of your final degree goes on your final recital. So we need as much practice as possible in the performance side of what's going on. We do technique classes, improvisation classes, studio classes, so working with microphones and headphones and all that stuff, and playing to commercials, orchestral excerpts, scales, hooray, tuning, doubling, everything we can think of about the saxophone over the course of your 4-year tenure at the college will be covered. A huge amount of student input in those classes as well. It's not just us standing at the front telling you stuff. What else? Yeah, as I say, it's a team teaching thing, so you'll see all the tutors in rotation in class, so everybody gets to know everybody. Initially, in the first 2 years of the program, we kind of stick to the idea that you would have pretty much one tutor, because there's quite a lot of information and it gets confusing if there's two people offering different opinions on things. And then for the second half of the course, we allow you to offer a sort of bespoke package of learning, so you could have a third of your lessons with me and 2/3 with Carl, or vice versa. In addition to those principal study lessons, you're going to get some doubling lessons. There's an extra 7 hours a year for doubling, which would be jazz saxophone, comes under that umbrella, flute, clarinet, so the things that we all need to learn in order to be able to go out and do any kind of commercial work or anything that requires doubling. There are lots of jazz-based activities in the college. There's a new head of jazz, Steve Berry, who's doing some great things. There's a big band, a jazz collective, the session orchestra, which I'm sure you've all seen. It's our big, shiny, exciting thing. So you will all be having to work in some way in some sort of commercial setting, as well as within the traditional wind orchestra and a bit in symphony and chamber orchestra, and new ensemble we do quite a lot. And of course the saxophone orchestra, which is all of our students playing together. That group rehearses regularly, and we have an annual concert as part of the college's lunchtime concerts, and we often go and do external concerts as well. We're also the only conservatoire in the UK that's taken its entire saxophone department to the last 4 saxophone congresses, wherever they are in the world. We were going to be going to Trento next month, early next month, but of course that's not happening. Which is an amazing opportunity for you to connect with all the other young saxophone players at all of the amazing conservatoires around the world. They're going to be your global network of partners for the next 30, 40 years of your career, so it's great to really touch base with those. We have visiting international saxophone tutor, who's currently Tim McAllister. If you don't know the name Tim McAllister, 1 demerit point to Gryffindor. Go and find out who Tim McAllister is. He's probably the world's most in-demand classical saxophone player at the moment, and he only teaches here or at Michigan, which is his teaching base. Great to have him in twice a year. Comes in for 2 or 3 days and hangs out with students and does classes and lessons with everybody. In addition, every term we have a visiting international masterclass, so people like Arno Bornkamp have been in, Vincent David, Claude Delong, all the names come in. We're all very good friends, and gives us a real sense of how we rank globally in terms of the standard of saxophone playing, to which the answer is very highly. We have students in the faculty in the saxophone studio from as far afield as Japan, Australia, Lithuania, South Africa, Portugal, Luxembourg, Norway, Canada, Germany, US, Netherlands, and even Russia. Each one of those students brings in a unique energy and enthusiasm to our program, and we're very lucky to have that global sort of approach. It makes everybody's life so much more interesting. Of course, we run the Saxophone Day every year. If you've not encountered the RNCM Saxophone Day, it's the best day of the year. It's better than Christmas. Bringing the best jazz and classical saxophone players from all over the world in to work with our students and play to the audiences. We've had Chris Potter and Bob Mintzer, Maris Nassette, Eric Marienthal, Julian Arguelles, Art Vark Quartet, loads of people, Claude DeLong, Vincent David, Tim McAllister, Arno's been in, Otis Murphy, Johan van der Linden, Apollo Quartet, all sorts of people, Habanera Quartet. There's a whole list of stuff. All of those people come and hang out and work with the students, again keeping us very connected on a global footing. So that's all terrifically exciting. The other thing I wanted to talk about before I open up to your questions. Oh, I like that. Who said that? He likes my colour changing saxophone thing. That's a new present somebody bought me, this thing here. It's very good. You can see who's paying attention in lessons, whether that's on or not. It's quite sad, but we're all a bit saxo geeky, aren't we? I just want to talk about auditions and then open it up for questions, because me talking all the time is dull. So when you come and audition, I think they're all going to be online this year, which is weird. Don't panic. We're looking for something like 4 saxophone students each year. And I say something like, because some years we have 8 or 9 and some years we have 1. It just depends what the standard's like, what we're looking for in our ecology. Some of the students we have with us might have left for other reasons. Some of them we might get extra transferring in. Actually happens more often. So a year that had 4 in it might end up with 7 in it, because people have transferred in from other conservatoires. So we don't need so many one year and we need a few more one year. There's a shifting ecology, but the saxophone faculty operates as an independent state within wind and percussion. So actually they stay out of our way and we just do what we want, which is exactly how I like it. So we can kind of have as many as we want. And what I'm looking for is it's a personality interview. It's an initiative interview. I'm looking for someone who's got some kind of energy about them, something to say through their instrument, and a sense that they're a musician that's going to come in bursting through the door of my practice room on a Monday morning, a wet Monday morning in December, with loads of energy. A kind of, I've been working on this and I've got this group and we're doing this thing with the chamber group and I'm learning this thing in this class and can you show me this and I saw this thing on YouTube and can you blah blah blah, that kind of energy and a passion for playing the saxophone and using that to be the way that they enter into the music profession. I'm not looking for the most technically dazzling, amazing saxophone operative in the world if they haven't got a personality that's going to bring something to our team, to our family, that's going to come in and add an energy to that. And so your job in audition is to show us who you are now, not who you think we think you should be. So don't go and find out the most difficult piece of music you've ever found in the world and try and learn it to show off. Show us what you can do. Play your favourite piece that you connect with when you play it, so we can see there's a musician in there trying to get out. I can teach a chimpanzee to play the saxophone in 10 weeks. It's not complicated. What I can't do anything about is if there's no one in there wrestling to get out and do something with it. And that's what we're trying to unpick in the audition process. I know we have a list of sort of set works on the website. They made me do it. I didn't want to do it. So pick one of those that most shows who you are and what you can do, and the contrasting work. Show us something different about yourself. If you can play jazz, play a thing with a backing track and show us that you can play jazz. If you can't, that doesn't matter. Just play 2 classical pieces, but do something lyrical and something demonstrative, something that shows your fingers and something that shows your heart, perhaps. Talk to us. I don't know what they're going to tell you in how they set you up in the audition process this year, because we've never done it online before and it's complicated. But it's really nice to hear you speak. Tell us about the piece. Tell us why you're playing it, what you like about it. We need to get to know you through your saxophone. And the rest of it, as I say, we can take care of. I hope that's helpful. I'm acutely aware that we will run out of time and I want to answer your questions. So hit the chat button and ask me stuff and I will answer them. What does Matthew, what does the chamber music program look like for a saxophonist? As I said earlier in some of the things I've done talking about my other hat, which is as deputy head of the chamber program here, I look after all the wind chamber groups. Initially, obviously, the go-to state would be a saxophone quartet because there's so much literature for that. It's a good base for you to start off with, and I fundamentally believe you will learn all of the skills you need to learn as a musician from being in a chamber group, far more than you will in any other context. You need to play better than you do as a soloist, and you need to listen harder because you are not a soloist. You need to do troupe management. You need to learn to book the sessions. You need to learn to criticise your peers and take criticism from your peers. All of that stuff. How to present, how to talk to an audience, how to market a concert. Every skill you learn, every skill I now use in my life as a mid-career freelance musician came from being in a quartet. So I'm a huge fan of it. But we also have, there's a reed quintet this year that saxophone plays in. There's a great saxophone duo. We've got a saxophone and percussion group, saxophone and harp, saxophone and string quartet. So you're very much encouraged to expand on the basic quartet thing, but that will be our start point. Do you expect all applicants to have completed grade 8? I think that's the minimum suggested requirement, is grade 8 ABRSM, or certainly working towards it. The standard of saxophone playing in my studio is very high, and it would be immoral to take somebody that wasn't at least that level and put them in and drop them into the world of, right, you're in wind orchestra and your first night at the RNCM, and you'd find the whole thing a threatening experience because everybody is so much more advanced than you are, and it would damage you and you might not regain your confidence. So it's immoral to take anybody that's not really up at that level. So that's a yes. Are there opportunities to learn how to play in a pit band setting? Very much so. As I say, we encourage everyone to play flute and clarinet. I'm a professional level trebler. All the commercial work I do, I have to have the flute and the piccolo and the clarinet and the bass clarinet, everything out. Carl Raven is also the same, so we're all working professionally at that level, and we'll help you with that. There are second study options to take clarinet and flute with full-time, flute and clarinet tutors at the RNCM as you work through the course. All of our classes are open to all students, so you can go to the flute classes even though you're a saxophone player, and you can go to clarinet classes. Sounds like a lovely idea, but trust me, you're going to have so little time because you're going to be so busy it's hard to fit them in. But absolutely, and we do classes on working in pit bands and stuff towards the end of the course, and playing along with backing tracks and stuff that are from all the pit shows. We can get sit-in opportunities when the touring shows are working in Manchester for you to go and sit in with the guys as well. We're not in London, we're in Manchester, and we don't have a West End, assuming the West End survives this current pandemic, which we all hope it does. So if you really, 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 really think that the only thing you want to do with your life is play in a pit orchestra, then London will give you more likely an in to that world than we can. However, I would caution that, because most saxophone students come to us saying, I'd love to play in a pit orchestra, because they've played in a school show and it's brilliant fun and you get to play lots in it, whereas when you're in kind of orchestra you don't. So a lot of your experience pre-college is playing in pits, and it's great fun, and the camaraderie is brilliant, and the music's really fun. We can train you to just as high a level, and then if you decide you're going to go down to London and join the very, very, very long queue of people waiting to get into the West End, you'll be at a much higher standard when you introduce into that world than you will going there and let everybody see you as you learn when you're 18, 19, 20, 21. So it's not geographically that important. The irony is, of course, if you go and work in the shows, you're probably going to pick up a touring show, so you'll have to move to London, pay lots of rent, and then never be in London because you'll be touring. It's one of the curiosities of the music business. We can unpick that through your studies. What previous experience, knowledge of jazz would you expect an applicant to have? None at all is completely fine, and anything above none at all is useful. And we will, from the very beginning, you can start off having jazz saxophone lessons as a second study. Part of your individual one-to-one lessons can be looking at how to transition your classical technique to a jazz setup and what you need to change in order for that to work. Very few people do that anywhere else. You can be on a jazz course or a classical course and nobody crosses over. We're kind of unique in that we let everybody do everything, and we will support that learning. When I got to college, I couldn't improvise my way out of a paper bag. I couldn't find my way out of a G7 without crying. And I learned to do it week on week on week on week on week. And the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to get better. Matthew, what's the process for assigning each student to their teacher? Well, there's a tutor picker thing from year 2. So once you know who we all are, you can pick your tutor, and we sort of honour that. For new students, so for you lot, you can sort of you can express a preference, but we also have to balance that with an ecology that's realistic. If everybody decides they want lessons with Carl, I haven't got a job, and then I have to go and work in McDonald's, and then I'm not the saxophone teacher at the RNCM anymore. So we sort of have to balance it between us a little bit. So there are no duff teachers at the RNCM, otherwise we wouldn't be at the RNCM. We're all on hourly paid 0 hours contracts, so if we don't have any students signing up for us because we're not very good, we're all out of a job and somebody else will come and work there. So you're assured that the people that are there because there's a demand for them, and they're the right people for you at the right time. So the standard model tends to be that the first years settle in with Carl, second years come to me, and then once you've had a year of each of us, then the back end of the course you pick a balance that suits you and the way that you like to learn. Andy Scott comes in and does 1 lesson a term with everybody, looking at tenor saxophone and a more creative sort of compositional approach later on, looking at arranging and stuff as well. We find that fits in perfectly well alongside that. So that's sort of the process, being honest with you, as I only ever will be. Do we have assessments on second study? Yes, we do. That's an excellent question. Halfway through the year we have the techniques exams. It sounds horrible and really isn't, and you're examined in your scales and a couple of studies and some orchestral excerpts and your second study. Second study exams start in the second year. We don't think it's fair if you arrive in September and you've had 3 flute lessons, for you to be assessed in the flute, or jazz saxophone or whatever you pick. So the first year there is no second study assessment, but after that it is part of your technical assessments. I've heard it's possible to choose how your classical jazz lessons are split up. Is this true? Yes, that is true to a degree. The first part of the course is actually not that specific. It's just getting your saxophone playing of whatever kind up to whatever level. And then for the second half of the course, you could, if you took second study jazz, that's 7 hours, and then if you split your principal study 2/3, 1/3, so you did 2/3 with a classical tutor and 1/3 with a jazz tutor, then you've kind of got nearly a 50-50 split. I am a big fan of a bespoke learning package, so I will always support my students in broadening and deciding later on that they want to expand like that, and we just keep fighting the system and we find ways through. If we look at, just going slightly off tangent, if I take a random year, probably, 6-7 years ago, we had 5 students graduating the same year, and the 5 final recitals went from one that was like uber contemporary Stockhausen, Takemitsu, Berio unaccompanied sequenzas. The second was a sort of standard repertoire, Fuzzy Bird Sonata, Creston Sonata, those kind of things. The third one was a big American saxophone sonata, and then a 20-minute set from the Michael Brecker Quindectet album, which is like an 8-piece jazz group, tenor saxophone lead. The fourth one was a concerto that the student had written himself for 40 minutes for jazz saxophone and chamber orchestra, and the fifth one was a tenor saxophone and DJ set. And those 5 students had all been on the same classical saxophone program for 4 years at the RNCM. So, and that's what I'm looking for, is for everybody to find their individual voice and to go the way that they want to go, with our guidance at the beginning to get your technique up to that level. And the labelling is irrelevant. What standard do I expect on flute and clarinet? Ownership. If you've got one, we'll teach you how to work it better and not drop it when you play a C sharp on the flute. Is it normal to have applicants for masters in performance? How it works, second study in chamber music? Yes, we have masters students, master in performance. Second study and chamber music is exactly the same for them as it is for undergrads. You will all be put in a group and you will all have extra second study. Are lessons available with you and Carl before audition? Yes, we normally do advice auditions. You would normally come up to the Northern for half an hour and play to us, and we'd have a chat about whether your standard is up to what we're looking for, whether you should take some more time, or what you could work on, blah 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 blah. They're very, very, very useful. We used to say it stops you driving around the country being rejected everywhere if you're not in a position to really have a sense of whether you're the kind of thing that conservatoires are looking for. So I would absolutely suggest that you should get in touch with the college. All of our email addresses are on the website. We're all just first name dot second name at rncm.ac.uk, and you can fix those up with us directly. I guess we can do that by Zoom now, so that would be absolutely appropriate to come and see me and Carl for half an hour or an hour, whatever you want to do. Get in touch with us directly, or get in touch with Wyndham Percussion and Susie Stonefield, who's our administrator, and she will put you in the right direction and we can sort all that out. It's a very, very good idea. Is there a type, brand of saxophone you like students to have? Absolutely not. There aren't that many Duff saxophones around anymore. I mean, I play Selmers, but lots of my students have Yanagisauers. There's a couple of Yamahas floating around. Some of them play Series 3 Selma, some play Series 2. One's got a Mark 6, a couple have got a Mark 6, someone's got a Mark 7. I don't mind, as long as it's good and you make a good sound and you connect with that instrument. That's important. They all sound the same. It's all voodoo. It's about what you do to it, above and beyond it being like a really basic student one where there's not any tonal quality, but there's hardly any of those anymore. So don't worry if you've got like a mid-range Yanni that you've been learning on. It'll be fine to get you in, and we can look at funding to get you new saxophones once you're here and ways of supporting that. That's a good question, Madison. Anything else? Lord knows how long this session's supposed to go on for. I could talk all day about it. Any more questions coming in? Let's have a look. No, that looks like I've done all of them. Brilliant. So as I say, it looks like, I didn't know this until today, but it looks like the auditions are going to be online, which in a way takes away the nerves, because you can have however many goes you like at recording a video, and then send the best one in, rather than coming all the way out to Manchester in the rain in November and rushing around and playing in a room with a slightly under-rehearsed sort of session with a pianist and worrying about it all. So in a funny sort of way, it could work very well. You won't be disadvantaged. You know this yourself, listening to all your friends in school concerts and stuff. You know within about 3 bars whether anybody's really got that connection with their music making. So that comes across just as well on video as it does live. I think it's a shame. It'd be lovely to see you all, but unfortunately the world's gone barking mad. Another question. How does the practice room booking system work? We have a system called Azimuth. It's one of those acronyms that nobody understands, and all of the rooms are available, and you get to book 72 hours in advance. You're allowed to book up to 5 hours of rooms at any one time, and as soon as your first one's gone off, you can book another one, so you can keep a rolling 5 hours of room bookings going. The college is very busy from 9 till 5, and very not busy at the other times, particularly early in the morning, because most students are not very good at getting up. Buildings open from 6 a.m. till midnight, so there's evening practice and morning practice is good, and get all the academic stuff done in the daytimes. But yeah, it works pretty well. What extent do students have input in what chamber music repertoire they play? Massive. From the outset, I expect my students to be in charge of their learning. I don't want to have to. It's not like your lessons now where your teacher says learn that for next week and learn that for next week. I want you to come through the door and say I want to learn this, and I will help you with it. So absolutely you can choose. We will suggest repertoire that's the suitable stuff and think the core rep that you need to learn, but absolutely you should be writing your own music, arranging your own music, collaborating with other people. The more adventurous the better. Would you expect someone to find an accompanist for a recorded audition? Well, this is a slight unknown. If you have an accompanist, and as of today you only have to stand 1 metre away from them instead of 2 metres like it was yesterday, then that's fine, but we also know that that's not applicable for everybody, because some of you would be turning up and expecting us to provide an accompanist, which is a very reasonable assumption. So I think you can play unaccompanied pieces. Yes, you can use backing tracks. Just make sure we can hear you over the backing track in the audio. We know some of you are going to have nice recording setups at home with proper microphones and interfaces and nice laptops, and you can record it into Logic and it'll sound lovely. And some of you will have your phone, and you will not be unfairly prejudiced against because of that. We will see through the technology and the recording and try and see the musician within that. I guess you just have to trust us on that. It's going to feel a bit weird, but it's a weird old world. But yes, unaccompanied pieces are fine. Backing tracks are fine. That's all good. What types of things do RNCM saxophone graduates go on to do? That's a very good question. I feel like there's a parent lingering in the background of that one. Crikey, that's an unanswerable question. Portfolio career is the standard model. So a bit of teaching, playing in a quartet maybe that you started at college that's doing some competitions and doing some music society gigs, playing in functions, doing weddings and things, playing with orchestras when they need saxophone players. Maybe you got your own jazz group that's doing some stuff. Maybe you do some work in do some commercial stuff in a studio a little bit. Maybe you do some arranging, maybe some writing, maybe you work as an administrator and do some promotion work for another ensemble. The thing about college is that the saxophone gets you through the door, and for most of you it's been the thing in your life that's the most amazing thing, and it's brilliant, and you want to be a saxophone player because you're 17, 18 and you think that there's a way of doing that, and you see the big soloists and you assume that you can do that and that they're doing that every day. Most saxophone players don't play the saxophone every day as a soloist in front of an orchestra. There's not that much call for it. So we all have different strings to our bow that make us a musician that plays the saxophone, who is active and creative. And what the college will show you is where all those other doors are. So you might leave college as a orchestral manager, you might leave college as a teacher, you might leave college as any number of other things within the music business where the saxophone is still part of what you do at a very high level. And to start with, it'll be like that, and gradually it will distill into a more focused thing over the first 10 years of your career. But the music business is changing so fast. No, but none of us can tell you what you're going to be doing when you leave, because we'd be lying. We don't know. We don't even know what we're going to be doing in 4 years. And so what you need is somewhere that's going to be reactive to that and help support the opportunities that you come back with. It's hard work. It's really hard work. When you leave with a first-class degree and £36,000 worth of student debt plus whatever your living costs were, you're going to be unemployed. You can't walk into a job. It's not there. We have to get you to a point where you are entrepreneurial, self-motivating, generating your own work, already working professionally by the time you leave, so you ease into a profession where you've already got irons in the fire. And that, I think, we do very well. For my contrasting alto piece in the audition, would I be able to play tenor? Yes, you very much would play. If you play tenor and you want to play tenor or soprano or baritone, show us that in the audition. How much does the sax department get involved with other projects? Yeah, lots of cross-school stuff. We do a lot of work with the composers, writing new music for us. And all of the saxophones are used for session orchestra. They're used in the opera orchestra sometimes, chamber orchestra, new ensemble. Everybody works cross-school and into the pop course as part of the session orchestra, which is our big shiny thing that everybody loves. Absolutely. And collaboration wider afield, Manchester University, Northern School of Dance, all sorts of things outside that we collaborate with. Is it possible to get piano lessons alongside saxophone? Excuse me. Sadly, it is not. There just isn't time in the schedule for any more piano teaching to be going on. So, which is crazy, because some of you already play piano to grade 8 and beyond and sound amazing. However, all of the classes are open to you, so you could go to the classes and you could possibly hook up with some of the piano tutors and see if they had some time to see you. But there's nothing formal in place anymore, I'm afraid. It can't be financed. Cool. Any more? I saw on the open day list, I'll do that one in a sec. I saw on the open day list that there was something like 25 saxophones signed up for today. Obviously, they're not all here. Some of them have got so bored they've gone home. If you think about that nationally, there's probably going to be 45, 50 of you auditioning all around the UK this year for places. Now, if we take 4, well, Wales takes 4, Birmingham takes 4, Guildhall takes 4, Scotland takes a couple, Trinity takes a couple, I don't know how it works. At least 30 of you are probably going to get a place somewhere, and you'll get a place somewhere that feels right for you, that's the right environment at the right speed for the level that you're at and the way you want to develop. There is no hierarchy amongst the conservatoires. They're all really good. All of the tutors are great, and all of the opportunities are great. You need to find somewhere that feels like your home, and then you will work well there. And the rest of it is irrelevant. It's about you being happy and feeling like you're part of something, away from home for the first time, and connecting with a new family of people that are going to help you get where you're going. So, think about that. Well, one more question. Which jazz activities beyond jazz lessons does the college offer? There's a big band, which is by sort of audition and by rotation, everybody gets a go. And there's a thing called Jazz Collective, which is like a training big band for people that have not done it before but want to. There's the session orchestra, which does massive sort of covers of pop stuff, so it's like a big band and strings and all the pop guys, everybody gets to play in that. There's 4 gigs a year, 3-4 gigs a year with that. There are loads of jazz modules that you can take, so by the time you get to your 3rd and 4th year, you can be doing almost exclusively jazz-based study within the program, if that's the way you really want to go. And your final recital can be part jazz, all classical, any points in between. It's an individual thing. As long as you maintain the standard, when you meet the standard we're looking for to graduate, the genre is irrelevant. And the jazz provision is growing at the RNCM. Steve Berry, as I said, has just taken over the jazz program. There's a lot more going on, a lot more joined up thinking with the jazz, working in collaboration with the classical departments. Hate the titles. It's all just music. So yeah, and as I say, we don't have a jazz course, and I don't think we should have a jazz course, because if you were on the jazz course, you would sit in your room practicing your jazz scales and your riffs and playing in big band and not developing necessarily a really good understanding of the technical foundation of the instrument and pushing the instrument as hard as you have to as a classical player. And we use the classical stuff because there's a longer history in it to push your technique to the limit, and that can only benefit your jazz playing. We had a student who went on from us to the Royal Academy Jazz postgraduate course. As you know, they take one frontline instrument a year of anything, trumpet, trombone, sax, anything. And there were 200 saxophone players went for it, and our graduate got it because he said he was the one that made the best sound, because he understood the instrument. In postgraduate courses, we had studio opportunities and even recorded demo with the help of school installations tutors. Sorry, I don't quite understand that. Yes, we will help you with recording demo videos and demo recordings and stuff. Some of those you would use for external competitions and stuff. So there is even a recording module option, I think, in postgrad, where you can specifically look at recording and all the technologies associated with it. I'm not sure if that answers your question. Sorry. Good. You must be so bored listening to me droning on. Don't apologise. Your English is much better than my Spanish, Portuguese. Anyway, Portuguese, I guessed, you see. There we are. Brilliant. This time last year, I was in Palmela at that wonderful saxophone festival. What a fantastic time that was. And the Sax Congress in Porto was mega. And lots of Portuguese friends. We like the Portuguese. Very similar approach to the saxophone to the English, actually. You do well here. I've got a Portuguese student coming as undergrad this year. So, yeah, very good. Yeah, it was nice. It was hot, like today. Sorry, ignoring everybody else. Okay, that's kind of an hour. I'm happy to sit here and chat all day. So if you've got more questions, let me know. If not, we can wind up. It's a brilliant program. I'm very proud of it. I've run this school for 23 years, which is a bit scary. That means none of you were alive when I started it, which is making me feel like a dinosaur. And I run it how I wanted a program to be when I was a student. It's very open. It's very supportive. Everybody plays to everybody all the time. You can learn with different tutors. All of the tutors are barking up the same tree, so you don't get that thing where an institution has two tutors who have different ways of playing the saxophone and you're being played off against each other. It's all very open. We try and generate some individuals who play the saxophone. So when you listen to my students, they all sound different. They don't all sound the same. I'm not a fan of that school of playing. Oh, here we go. Look, I can show you some of my students. Here's a little 2-minute video of our saxophone orchestra playing in concert last year at the RNCM, doing something. This sums up kind of what we do. Here we go. I don't know how to make that bigger. that sound all right? Yeah, thumbs up. Very good. I don't know how to make it stop now, rather annoyingly. There we go. Yeah, cool. That's what we do. I'm slightly biased, but it is by far and away the best saxophone program in Europe. So, you know, there we are. Are there any more questions coming? Ooh, there are. That's exciting. How are the parts assigned in something like this? Actually, we kind of let everybody move around in saxophone orchestra and try out different things. People find their home. Some people like playing low instruments. Some people like playing high instruments. And rather than force everybody, we kind of find a way. But also, if people want to change around, they can. It's all very open. The Composer, that's a piece called Rung, like on a ladder, Rungs of a Ladder, by Adam Caird, who was a student at the RNCM. He was a pianist, and he used to accompany one of my saxophone students, Charlotte. And he was a composer, and he wrote that for us ages ago. I take it the range of styles of saxophone plays is very diverse. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and quite adventurous and quite edgy and interesting. We commission a lot of things. There's lots of original repertoire. We've been building it up over years and years and years, but we've got sort of 20 years worth of arrangements of things from really classical up to really advanced contemporary things and funky things and jazz things and all sorts. You'll see in there's a bass saxophone. The college has a bass saxophone, Bertha. You can have a go on Bertha. People like to do that. It's a funny old thing. And there's a sopranino too. And we also have, for those of you that only have an alto or a tenor, we have college saxophones, like the bigger ones, baritones and things that you can borrow if you're putting wind orchestra on baritone and stuff, which you will be. So we can help out with all of that. And we even have some jazz mouthpieces for those of you that don't have those yet that you can have a go on. So yeah, I don't know what we do about sharing instruments in a post-COVID world, but I'm sure we'll maybe have to wear a hat or something. Yeah, there we go. Good. Well, I think I don't know if there must be other things to do on open day. I have no idea, but this is the best session. Thank you for listening. Thanks for coming along. I'm sorry you had to do this virtually. It would have been so lovely to meet you over a cup of tea in the amazing, amazing building that is the RNCM. I hope to see you all virtually, if not in real life for auditions. Anyone that wants advice, auditions, or consultation lessons, get in touch with me directly. Let me put my email's easy. It's just go to the website and go find the staff. It's rob.buckland@rncm.ac.uk or carl.raven@andy.scott, that sort of stuff. Thank you, that's nice. Lots of thank yous. You're all very lovely. We like saxophone players. They're the best people in the world. If everyone played the saxophone, the world would be better. And on that note, thank you. Have a lovely day and be in touch and see you soon. Bye, everybody.